After almost 60 years of strong bipartisan support, Congress has cut all federal funding for public media, stripping away a critical pillar of support for local stations like ours. At Vermont Public, we'll lose at least $2 million this year. If all our sustaining members increase their gift by $7 per month, we'll close that gap for good. Increase your gift today and help close the gap at vermontpublic.org/update.
From Vermont Public, this is The Frequency. I'm Mary Angish. It's Thursday, September 11th, and here are today's headlines. The Scott administration says it plans to move forward with its new policy to restrict remote work by many state employees starting December 1st. And it took an unusual step this week to promote that plan. Governor Phil Scott sent state workers a video message on Monday morning, encouraging them to support the change. It limits them to no more than 2 days of remote work per week.
I know for many of you, being in the office 3 days a week will be a big change. And I truly understand that. But I also want to recognize remote work of any kind isn't even an option for many state employees.
The plan is expected to affect roughly 1/3 of the state workforce. The Vermont State Employees Union says it plans to continue rallying members to oppose the plan. It's also considering legal action to block it from taking effect. The Vermont Department of Health has confirmed the first human case of Jamestown Canyon virus in the state. The case was confirmed Monday in a person from Windsor County through a series of lab tests. Mosquitoes infected with Jamestown Canyon virus can spread the disease to humans through bites. Most people don't get sick, but some develop flu-like symptoms. Severe cases can cause confusion, loss of coordination, seizure, or a stiff neck. The Jamestown Canyon virus does not have a vaccine or specific treatment for it, and this is the first year Vermont is testing mosquitoes for this virus. Vermont officials have detected the virus in mosquitoes collected in Rutland, Marshfield, and Whitingham. Clemens Family Farm is partnering with the University of Vermont on a new initiative. It's called the African Diaspora Foodways Institute of Vermont. The program aims to strengthen the state's African diaspora food businesses and to diversify tourism. It's supporting 4 local chefs in its first year in a variety of ways. One involves tapping students in UVM's Nutrition and Food Sciences department to analyze the nutritional content of the chef's food. Judith Anglin is department chair. She studies the relationship between nutrition and health disparities for people of African descent.
One of the reasons why we want our students to get involved is so that they can understand how to address health equity inside the community in a practical, meaningful way.
The program will also help businesses with marketing and provide $10,000 grants. Rising health insurance costs are driving a Vermont nonprofit to close a car detailing shop that employs at-risk youth. Spectrum Youth and Family Services runs Detail Works in Williston. It's meant to help young people who've struggled in traditional work environments. Spectrum Executive Director Mark Redmond says even though the group continues to receive lots of donations, it hasn't been enough to keep up with health costs.
So I hated to make this decision, but the fact is that health insurance costs for our organization, not just for Detail Works, but for all our employees, have gone up 118% over the last 5 years. We had to close one program, really, in order to keep the overall organization solvent and running.
Detail Works will close in October after 9 years. Redmond says Spectrum will work with young people affected by the closure to find other jobs. Coming up, a federal appeals court ruled in favor of a Christian high school that was banned from sports competitions in the state for refusing to play against a team with a transgender athlete. That's after this.
Thanks for listening to The Frequency, where support comes from SRH Law, believing that values and mission still matter. When you need good counsel for your values-based work, whether it's securing our energy future, building affordable and sustainable communities, or advancing a values-led economy, they're here to help you make a difference. SRHLaw.com. Making a difference is our practice.
This show is supported by Odoo. When you buy business software from lots of vendors, the costs add up and it gets complicated and confusing. Odoo solves this. It's a single company that sells a suite of enterprise apps that handles everything from accounting to inventory to sales. Odoo is all connected on a single platform in a simple and affordable way. You can save money without missing out on the features you need. Check out Odoo at odoo.com. That's odoo.com.
2 years ago, a girls' basketball team at Mid-Vermont Christian, that's a religious school in the Upper Valley, forfeited a game rather than play against a team with a transgender athlete. In response, the Vermont Principals Association banned that school from interscholastic sports in Vermont. Well, they went to court, and on Tuesday, a federal appeals court ruled Mid-Vermont Christian School should be allowed back in the game. Vermont Public's Lola DeFore is here to put all this in context. Welcome, Lola.
Hey, Mary.
Lola, can we start out first by talking about the legal representation that this Christian school has retained? It's a firm. It's called the Alliance Defending Freedom, and they're kind of a big deal, right?
Yeah, they sure are. The ADF is a national organization, and they're a key part of this larger ecosystem of conservative activists, donors, and lawyers that are trying to remake America's judicial system in their image. They're well-funded, and they have enjoyed tremendous success, including a number of big wins at the U.S. Supreme Court.
And now they're having that success here in Vermont. Lola, can you talk more about what this week's ruling means and what's the court's reasoning behind it?
Yeah, so when the Vermont Principals Association kicked Mid-Vermont Christian out of this sports league, they argued it was because the school was unwilling to abide by the VPA's anti-discrimination rules, as evidenced by the religious school's decision to publicly protest a transgender athlete. And so the big question is, can religious entities be required to abide by anti-discrimination rules, particularly when participating in a public benefit? And the court here actually kind of ignored that question in its latest decision.
Yeah, the court here, it ignored that. So how did they do that?
Well, instead, this appeals court relied on public statements made by the VPA's executive director, Jay Nichols, to argue that the association's decision had been motivated by religious animus. Nichols testified in front of lawmakers soon after Mid-Vermont Christian forfeited that game, and there he expressed a lot of frustration about the incident. He called it, quote, blatant discrimination in the guise of religious freedom. And so the court pointed to those statements and a few others, and the fact that the VPA had initially actually banned Mid-Vermont Christian from all extracurricular activities, including, like spelling bees, to argue that the organization was not acting in an even-handed way and was, hostile to religious schools generally.
Lola, does the outcome in this case have larger implications?
It's hard to say. I spoke to two legal experts, one local, one national, and they both said that this case reminded them a lot of another ADF case out of Colorado, which went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. And in that case, the court ruled in favor of a cake maker that had refused to make a wedding cake for a same-sex couple. And in that case as well, the court sidestepped the broader question about this intersection between anti-discrimination rules and religious freedom and when they conflict. As in this Vermont case, the judges there argued that the people taking enforcement action, here the Colorado Human Rights Commission, that they acted in ways that suggested they were hostile to the baker because he was religious.
That sounds like a narrow ruling, right?
Yeah, that's precisely what we have in both cases, a narrow ruling. This Vermont lawsuit is part of a much larger legal battle about whether religious entities can participate in public benefits and at the same time be exempt from things like anti-discrimination rules when they conflict with their worldview. But those broader fundamental questions are nowhere near settled. Tuesday's ruling remanded the case back to a lower court, and we will just have to see what happens next.
That's Vermont Public's Lola DeFore. Lola, thanks so much.
You bet. Thanks, Mary.
Thanks for listening to The Frequency today. We had additional reporting from Bob Kinzel, Elodie Reed, Mila Van Linde, and Adia Golston, who also produced today's episode, with Stephanie Colombini editing. And our music is by Blue Dot Sessions. I'm Mary Engish. Talk to you soon.